What's up, nerd geeks and gamers alike? It's your boy Nerdy Nick. I want to tell you guys this. I am obsessed with Helldivers 2. And I thought, with all the vast assortment of enemies that you encounter in the game, we should make a tier list. So let's go ahead and rank them from most enjoyable to least enjoyable to encounter. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so for those of you who don't know, there are two enemy factions that you can run into in Helldivers 2. At least for now, that is. There's the Terminids, which are your Starship Trooper type of bug enemy. And there's also the Automatons, which are like more or less your Terminator-esque type of characters. Both have their like strengths and weaknesses as far as what's more challenging than the other. I don't know necessarily off the top of my head what I would say is more challenging. Maybe we'll do another video kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive into the lore and everything like that as well. But let's go ahead and start off with the lower classes and work our way up. Now, again, we're going to be ranking these enemy types on most fun to encounter to least fun to encounter on your journey to spread democracy throughout the galaxy. And by fun, I also mean challenging, interactive, difficult, but not difficult for difficulty's sake. We don't want to be a pain for pleasure over here. We like to have a challenge, but at the same time, we don't want it, nails through the eye sockets hard, okay? So let's go ahead and start with the Trooper class. These are your run-of-the-mill cannon fodder type of soldiers for the Automatons. I like them. Normally you'll find them in a little bit of a pack, maybe around like 5 or so at a time. My only thing with them is they go down pretty easy. They're not much of a challenge even on the harder difficulties. So I'm going to put these guys at a C. They're not totally, not fun, but they're good target practice. Alright, now moving on to the Commissar. These guys are a little more challenging. Sometimes they have two laser blades for arms. I think they're lasers. They look like lasers in the game. Sometimes they just have one, and the other arm will be equipped with a pistol. These guys can also block your shots, and they are more aggressive. They'll charge at you. I have noticed as well that they will shoot off a flare to signal a dropship to bring in more enemies. That makes it challenging right there. Not only will they be able to block your shots, but they also run at you and signal for help. So you have a real sense of urgency to clear the area of these guys when you run into them. I'm going to put them at a B. If you encounter one of them when their arm is going up, you want to shoot them down as fast as possible. Alright, now we're going to go on to the Scout Strider. So, the Scout Striders are kind of like the mini AT-ATs. All you Star Wars fans out there, I'm sorry if I butchered that, but they are in a walking mech that looks like the ones that you see on Endor when the Ewoks are, defending the village and all that. They're just a smaller scale. They are a little difficult to get around your first couple of times because you don't know how to defeat them. The enemy, the Automaton trooper that is piloting this thing, is exposed from the back side. So if you throw a grenade and it happens to land right under it or slightly behind it, that will more likely than not end the Scout Strider's time in your crosshairs. These guys are a pain in the ass though if you kind of get swarmed and you turn around and you're like, holy shit, this guy's up in my face and I'm right underneath his feet. They can stomp the crap out of you and you can die that way. Their cannons are not one to be fucked with either, if I'm being brutally honest. It is really satisfying to see them go down, though. I'm going to give these guys a B tier as well. Now, moving on. The Berserker. At first glance, these guys look absolutely nuts. They've got chainsaws for arms and a very small weak point. They're very large, and the nice thing is they're fairly slow. But you don't want to get too close to these guys because they'll chop you up to bits like that. I think they aren't necessarily too hard to strike down, but you normally see them with at least 2 to 3 other Berserker buddies. Like I said, that weak point is pretty small, so you've got to have good, steady aim. You can't freak out when you encounter them, but it is definitely a decent amount of challenge. With Berserkers, I think I'm gonna put them at a B tier. Alright, the B tier is getting pretty stacked so far. We've got 3 on the B tier, 1 on the C tier. The Devastators now, though. The Devastators are a heavily armored enemy. Their weak point is even smaller. Kind of like the Berserker, they are a hulky type. They're a heavier type. Not quite a tank. They aren't quite a tank yet. But these guys definitely need like high explosive rounds to be able to take down. Or, you know, obviously you call in one of your bomb eagle runs to take them out. But even still, that's not a guarantee with these guys. For the Devastators, I'm going to go ahead and put them, again, actually, you know what? I'm stuck between a B and a C. I think I'm going to go C. I don't really have the greatest time encountering them. I think they're kind of, like, the sub-boss type of, I don't know, enemy that you'll run into. I don't know. You don't have fun like trying to mow them down. You know what I mean? So let's move on to the Hulk. The Hulk is an absolute unit. He is a big boy. The Hulk, like, it is absolutely pointless to shoot them from the front. They've got a giant weak spot in the back, but good luck getting to the backside. They are equipped with machine guns and flamethrowers. The flamethrowers actually have a pretty decent range of attack. It's pretty much, if you are caught right in front of one of them, you're probably gonna die. If you have good teammates and they are, you know, decent aim, at least just decent, they can take out the Hulk from the behind while you're distracting it in the front. You can call in a strafing run, a bomb, so on and so forth. It's not going to take the Hulk out. And as far as encountering goes, I'm going to put the Hulk at an A. They're an absolute challenge, but extremely fun to take down. Alright. The tank. It's a tank! It's just stupidly heavily armored. So, with the tank, it's pretty one-dimensional. You can actually get on top of these. It's pretty fun to do. It's kind of like, it reminds me of like all those old World War II movies where you see guys like jump on top of tanks, throw a grenade inside, you know, and watch it explode. Unfortunately, you can't do that with these tanks, although that would be absolutely awesome if they patch that into the game. But the tanks aren't much of a challenge, in my opinion. They're pretty slow. You know, they take a minute to aim. They are bullet sponges, though, or bomb sponges, or grenade sponges. So for that reason alone, I'm going to put them down at the D tier. They're really not fun to encounter. You just, spam the bomb until they explode. Really, that's what it is. You spam your stratagem, the eagle run, until they explode. The drop ships. Alright. You gotta have a teammate with a rocket launcher. And I say this for two reasons. Number one, you don't want that dropship to unload the enemies, right? But number two, it is so satisfying seeing the dropship explode in the air and come crashing down, carrying all of the enemy troops, and just watching them all blow up as the dropship blows up. It's pretty awesome. Other than that, they don't really, pose much of a challenge at all. I've never had a dropship fire at me or anything like that. So, I think I'm just going to put them down at a C for encountering. You're not going to shoot them down unless you have a heavy weapon. Alright. The gunship. I hate these guys. The gunship is what it is. It is a gunship. Again, you're not going to shoot them down unless you have a heavy weapon like a quasar cannon or a rocket launcher, something to that effect. When they're on you, dude, it is like good luck. They are the enemy type that's hard to be hard. I am putting them down at the D tier. Now, last, definitely not least, we have the Factory Strider. These things, oh my god. Alright. They fire and shoot at you. They can stomp you to death. These things are huge, by the way. They make AT-ATs, look kind of small. And on top of that, they are producing enemies, and they drop from the underside of the Strider. So you are not only fighting this thing, but it is also constantly producing enemies to protect itself. And the times that I've encountered it, it's produced Devastators, Hulks, and Berserkers. None of the small guys. It sucks. It's hard. It is an absolute panic-inducing encounter. But if you have a couple of 500-kilogram bombs to call in and unleash all hell, they're not so bad. It's always exciting and a very fun challenge to take one of these guys down. And they're extremely fun to encounter. And so for that, I'm going to put the Factory Strider at an S tier. They're pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and talk about the Terminid faction now.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about the Terminid faction. These guys are literally what you would expect to see right out of a Starship Troopers movie. And if you kind of take your head out of it a little bit and tell yourself you're playing a Starship Troopers game while you're facing these enemy types, you would know no difference. The enemies and the Terminid faction are really cool. And depending on the environment you play them into, actually kind of changes the challenge a little bit with them. But let's go ahead and start ranking these guys from most fun to encounter to least fun to encounter. Alright, so we're going to start off with the Scavenger. These are, I would say, very large dog-sized enemies. They're just the little grunts. They are the cannon fodder guys. But you can definitely get swarmed by them if you're not careful or paying attention. They are pretty weak. Only takes about, 3 or 4 bullets to put them away. Even your laser guard dog can, kill them within, I think, like 2 to 3 seconds. So, I mean, for that, I'm just going to put the scavenger over on... let's go C tier. Let's go C tier. Right alongside these fellas. Next up, we've got the Pouncer. The Pouncer has little wing flaps, and they can kind of like leap and pounce and jump at you. They get really annoying, and if they get close by, it gets to be a bit much, and it is non-stop firing until they're all dead. They can easily overwhelm you if you're not careful enough, especially as you're playing in the harder difficulties. The game will produce just tons and tons of them at you. It is fun mowing them all down, though, and this goes for all the bugs. Just seeing all the bug guts fly everywhere is awesome. So, I'm going to put these guys at a B tier. I wish there was almost a tier between B and C, because I think that's where they would fit best. They are just about as weak as the scavengers, but what gives them a little bit more of a fun factor to face off against is the fact that they jump and try to like little fly at you. You know what I mean? Now, the warrior class. So this is like your first step up into like a full-size enemy with the Terminids. These guys can slice you up pretty good if you're not careful. They do take quite a bit of more damage, and for that reason alone, they're way more fun to encounter. They're not just a fall over and die kind of enemy. And these guys, I would say, gosh, I'm gonna put them at B tier as well. They're pretty common, and normally you'll find them with, like, I would say in a pack of between 5 to 10 of them at a time. Again, they can swarm you, and I mean, I've seen guys go down and I've got to revive them, or, call them back in because they got surrounded by the warriors. Next up, we've got the Bile Spitter. These guys, again, are going back to a smaller class. But the difference is, these guys actually spit acid at you. Or bile. I mean, it's kind of in the name, right? But they pose just as much of a threat, I would say, as like a Pouncer does. If a Bile Spitter actually lands, a projectile on you, it's not going to kill you right away. But they can spit a lot faster than, say, one of the larger classes that we'll be talking about in a moment. But they're in droves, really. They come out of the ground, and there's normally a large pack of them. So you're doing a lot of diving and constant flopping around. I'm going to put these guys over in the B tier. They are definitely weaker and can go down almost just about as easy as a scavenger or a Pouncer. But because their attack is just so... it's long range, it's projectile, that makes it more fun to face off. Next up, the Nursing Spewer. Whew. These dudes normally travel in packs of like 2 to 3. They are pretty large, and I want to say kind of bullet spongy, but in a good way, because it is so satisfying watching them explode if you kill them from their weak point, which is their, I guess, the thorax, right? The body portion. I don't know. I'm not a bugologist, but you shoot the big glowy thing on their rear side, and they will explode. The Nursing Spewer. So the Nursing Spewer is a one-hit kill, basically, if it lands its bile on you, its projectile. You pretty much die instantaneously. Now, if it makes a little bit of contact with you as you're trying to get out of the way, you'll be okay. You'll just need to heal yourself right away. I want to say they're a pretty fun time because you've really got to be on your toes with these guys. So I'm gonna put the nursing spewer on B tier. Moving on to the hunters. These guys are like the pouncers, but a little more ferocious. They've got large, like scythe-like appendages. And they slice you up pretty quick, and you've really got to be on your toes when they are around because they will like not just take a little jump, they will literally fly and leap at you, and they will land right in your face. They're really fun. I think they kind of like flock around in like groups of about 10. I normally come across them about like 10 at a time. If they land like right all over you, man, it's good luck, you know. Hopefully you've got a heavy machine gun equipped so you can just hold that trigger down and mow them all to bits. I'm gonna put these guys at the B tier as well. The Hive Guard. We are moving on to the Hive Guard. I don't like the Hive Guard because they are essentially a walking phalanx. You know, remember that scene in 300 where they all got their shields together? Yeah, that's what the Hive Guard is like. Because as soon as you start firing at it, it goes into itself and becomes this impenetrable shield. It's got really hard armor, natural armor around itself. Its head is gigantic, which is like the main shield of it. So with these guys, you've really got to hit them from behind where their tail comes out and that's where like all their meat is exposed, or with a well-placed grenade. They can be pretty boring because as long as you're firing at them, they're really not going to move. And I've even had encounters with them where they don't move at all and they just stay in that, like, you know, shielded position. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Hive Guards down at C. They're not much of a threat, not much of a challenge. I've never had one even charge at me before. They're just kind of there. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the Bile Warrior. The Bile Warrior is like the next step up from the Bile Spitter. I would say they're kind of okay. You know, they, again, have the bile that they spit at you. They've got really large sickle or scythe-like arms or appendages. They're just kind of run-of-the-mill. I'm going to put them at C. Yeah, I'll put them at C. That tracks. I like running into the Bile Spitter more than the Bile Warriors, just because the Bile Spitters, normally there's a lot more of them, and it's just a lot of fun to mow them all down. Now, this is where I kind of break a little bit. Damn Chargers! I'm not talking about the Los Angeles football team. The Chargers are essentially massively overgrown horned beetles. They're not fun. They've got thick as shit armor. And their weak spot is, it might as well be under them. They will make a beeline at you and throw you halfway across the map sometimes. The game does have some hilarious ragdoll physics. But the Chargers, you can kill them in about 2 shots with a rocket launcher, which is all it will come with. You can drop a 500 kilogram bomb on them and they will still not die. I don't get it, but it happens. The Chargers, look, it's a love-hate relationship with them, and it's very complicated. I've died a lot by these guys, but I will say, it is so satisfying and fun going against them. I'm not gonna lie. I can't lie. You know, it's like when you walk up to one that's just kind of like there in the field. You kind of want to like look at the camera and go, "Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass," and then it will chase you. I'm gonna put the Chargers on the A tier. Fun for everyone. The Shrieker. And I'm not talking about your ex-girlfriend, fellas. This winged beast sucks ass. I don't like them. I don't like them at all. The sky will be full of like 15 to 20 of them at a time. They are kind of easy to hit when they're in the sky. But their one and only attack against you is a dive. And I don't know how to explain how annoying the dive is, other than when it happens like not once, not twice, but like 3 times in a row. Because there will be different ones locked onto you at the same time. It's not fun. I mean, it is, but it's not. The Shriekers are a cool added element into the game as far as on the Terminid front goes, because all of the Terminids are really ground based. You know, you've got a little bit of diversity with the automaton side of things. You know, you've got like an actual tank that you will go up against. You've got the big walkers and so on, right? But the winged beast, the Shrieker. Gosh, I don't know. Let's put the Shrieker down at C. I'm not gonna lie. The very first time I encountered them, I literally said into my mic, "Holy shit, they got flying ones?" And then I promptly died, like right after that. Okay, moving on to the Brood Commander. The Brood Commander. Alright. Brood Commander is a step up from the Hive Guard. It has, you know, same kind of armored shell to itself, but these ones are very aggressive. They don't just kind of like shell up when you're firing at them. These guys come at you. You can stand there with your heavy machine gun, firing off, dozens and dozens of rounds into this thing, and it will still charge at you. I've blown their heads off, and they will still charge at me. Like, these dudes are tough, and they're fun as shit to go up against. I'm gonna put the Brood Commander at A. I like it a lot. Alright. Now, moving on to another projectile enemy, the Bile Spewer. Much like the Nursing Spewer, these guys will essentially one-shot you if you don't get out of the way. They shoot green bile acid. They are essentially the semi-final form of the Bile Spitter that turns into the Bile Warrior, that turns into the Bile Spewer, right? So they're roughly about the same size as the Nursing Spewer, but these ones are a little more vicious than the Nursing Spewer. They're more aggressive, and I think they even crawl faster on the ground. But you just don't want to be cornered by one of these guys. And again, it is super satisfying watching their big old sack of bile just go boom. I'm gonna put them on the B tier. Alright. I really don't like this enemy type. They are called the Stalkers. They're predator bugs. Remember that movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers? God rest his soul. Remember how Predator would just be like invisible, take a lot of really cheap shots? Yeah. Stalker is the same deal. You'll just be strolling along, you know, in a field or through the jungle or the desert, wherever you might be. And all of a sudden you get hit out of fucking nowhere. And you turn around and there's this motherfucker just standing there, clawing at you like crazy. And these guys inflict a lot of damage. They have extremely sharp appendages. And I think it's two to three hits from them and you're dead. Even if you've got heavy armor on, you're dead. Now say you turn around and you start laying into them. You start, you know, drilling in some bullets to these guys. Well, guess what? They're going to cloak and run away. And hopefully you've got a good eye and can continue firing on them as they retreat. All that said, I'm going to put the Stalkers in the A tier. Oops. All that said, I'm going to put the Stalker in the A tier. Very good challenge. Not hard just to be hard, but fun at the same time. Next up, the Bile Titan. These dudes make the Strider factories look a little small. I'm not gonna lie. The Bile Titans are freaking huge. They're massive. The amount of bile that they spit out at once is absolutely daunting. You don't want to be stuck under them either because they will take one step on you and you are done. You are dead. It usually takes 3 to 4 500 kilogram bomb runs to take them out. They are one hell of a challenge, but I will say this. As you're creeping up onto the objective, and normally the objective is to take out 2 Bile Titan or so on the map, it's a really cool sight to behold because you just see this massive creature in the distance, and the closer you get, the larger this beast is, and then you realize we're in for it now, boys. Pucker up. I love the Bile Titans. I love the battles with them. I am putting them in the S tier. And last up for the Terminid faction, we've got the Behemoths. These guys are just like the Chargers, but you could tell they're a little more aged maybe, or a little more advanced because their shell is even thicker than the Chargers. They're extremely hard to take down. As you can imagine, they are extremely heavily armored and guarded to the gills. You know, I feel like these guys are just kind of hard to be hard, if I'm just going to be honest with you. And for that reason, they are going down to the D tier. Alright guys, there you have it. My Helldivers 2 enemy tier list, ranking from most enjoyable experiences to least enjoyable experiences and encounters. If you've played Helldivers 2, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the rankings in the tier list. Would you move things around a little bit? And also, what is your favorite enemy to encounter in the game? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you've made it this far, please leave that thumbs up for Super Earth and spreading democracy. And also, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and check out all the other content on the channel. And click the bell for notifications. That way you guys always know when we go live for the N Squared podcast every Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Arizona time, where we talk about all things gaming, movies, comic books, pro wrestling, and more. It's me and best friend Josh just having a good time. Be a part of the show and get your chats read live. And speaking of the show, would you mind helping us out and heading over to patreon.com/N Squared podcast? For as little as $3 a month, you can become an N Squared Podcast Bro. Get an exclusive sticker that we've made just for our patrons, and a producer credit at the beginning of every episode of the N Squared Podcast Live. And for $5 a month, you can become an N Squared Podcast Bro Chacho, where you get the sticker, producer credit, and also a topic takeover every time we go live. What's a topic takeover? Well, it pretty much is what it says. You can go ahead at any point in the show and play your topic takeover card, and we will talk about whatever topic you bring up, as long as it's reasonable and not breaking any guidelines. So, once again, that's patreon.com/nsquaredpodcast. And also, if you'd like to see me at a convention near you, head on over to malicemediallc.com and book me today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Make sure to follow me on the social media platforms listed here. I really have enjoyed the journey so far in taking YouTube serious again and sticking with it. Just want to say thank you all if you've been, following me throughout the years, and for those of you that are new and just finding me for the first time today. I wouldn't be here without you guys. So with that said, I bid you adieu, game on, and have a great weekend.